Welcome to this week's 6-Minute Stretch Challenge number 18, where we are going to be wrapping up a 4-part mini-series on increasing your mental resilience. Now, the last couple of 6-minute stretch challenges, we've been focusing on how you can mentally bounce back. But today, we're going to shift our focus to how you can lead others to mentally bounce back. And we have two things that we want to share with you. The first one is an approach where you build two things at the same time. You create an environment where you have a healthy amount of compassion that is coupled with containment to create mental resilience that gives you a chance to help people move forward through challenging moments. In addition, another tool that you can use as a leader of other people, both at work and at home, to help increase their mental resilience is to ensure that you find ways to energize or re-energize those around you. Now, we're going to start with this idea of building compassion with containment. And I'd like to draw your attention to an article that we came across in the last couple of months that was titled, "How do you help lead your team, which is exhausted, when you're exhausted as well?" And they hit upon this idea of making sure that you couple having a compassionate environment, but also with some containment. One of the things that they mentioned was that during a crisis like we're experiencing right now, you often find that there's a breeding ground for us to lose our mental resilience. There are increases in moments of depression, loneliness, and definitely anxiety. And what's driving that? Well, right now we have some unique things that are all being built upon each other at the same time that's creating that mental energy leakage. It includes the idea that we have distancing rules, we have health concerns. Many of us are dealing with very lean team members, and so we've got heavier workloads because of the size of our team. And we are dealing with lots of changes that are going on in our organizations and shifting priorities. Now, one of those by themselves would be a challenge, but when you put all of those together, that's why many of us have very low, if at all, reserves in our mental energy space. So if you want to start leading people during times like this, one of the things we want to do is start building a safe environment with a healthy dose of compassion. To accomplish that, you're going to need to prioritize thinking about and embodying conversations around people's overall well-being. To begin, as a leader, one of the things you want to do really well is actively listen. And so you need to start having conversations and finding out how people are doing. Now, you have to couple that with making sure that you realize not only do you have to listen, but you have to stick around even when the conversation can sometimes get tough, can be awkward, or maybe even uncomfortable. Because part of your role, again, whether you're leading someone in your personal life, a family member or a friend, or you're trying to lead someone in your working life to help them mentally bounce back, is that you have to stick around during those conversations. Now, we have accumulated some ideas of some responses that you can have available or approaches that you can take when you have a difficult conversation. The first one is to understand and give yourself permission to say, "I don't know." Sometimes when someone is having a conversation with you about a difficulty in their life, they may ask you, "What should I do?" And if you don't know or don't have guidance, it's okay to say, "I don't know." But maybe you follow that up with, "But I do want to stick around to find out how we can work together to create a solution. Let's do this." It's okay not to know the answer, but it's not okay not to stick around to help collaborate on what they can do to move forward. Also, another great idea is to let them know some of your own challenges. Being vulnerable as a leader is sometimes the easiest way to create an environment of safety and compassion. Let them know some of the challenges that you are experiencing as well. Let them know they're not alone. Also, I think it's really great for you as a leader to remember to think back on things that that person has done where they've seen true accomplishment. Maybe you say to them, "Hey, I can tell that this is really weighing on your mind. I don't want us to forget that last year we had a challenging 2 or 3 weeks, coupled together, and I remember you doing A, B, and C. We definitely need to remember how to lean into your strengths in that area right now as well." Help align them to pulling into prior accomplishments and skill sets that they do have by talking about them with them together. In addition, don't just talk about their work contributions. Remember to bring up things about them as a whole person. And that could include things that they're doing to contribute that aren't work related, but just because of who they are. All of those things can start down the path of setting a tone of compassion, which is going to be what we call step one. Now, I do want you to think about this though. You have to couple that compassion with containment. And what is containment? Well, as a definition, what we would tell you is containment starts with absorbing what's going on around you, which is the listening part. But then you have to make sure that you set up an environment of stability for what you're going to do next. As you can imagine, if you become imbalanced and you have only compassion without containment, you can actually create an environment where your team and or your personal relationships become helpless. What we don't want to do is leave them in a position to be overly dependent and not willing to figure out what to do next. Also, sometimes another risk is when we take on too much compassion, we end up feeling like we have to take on other people's challenges and solve them ourselves. And that can end up suppressing the things you need to a lower priority, causing other risks as well in your own life. Now, to do this, we kind of have a 1-2 punch. Number one, create the compassion by lifting up yourself and others, having great conversations with active listening and great responses, even during challenging times, but not to the point of pampering. So the second step is to give people a chance to really catch their second wind, truly bounce back, digging into their grit, finding out that defiance that we have inside of us so that we can go back into the ring fighting and give ourselves a chance to truly mentally bounce back. With that in mind, an example is something we call a rally cry. Now, as a rally cry, you begin to say, okay, what does that mean? A rally cry is simply a mantra that you use, likely in a short-term fashion, used by everyone on a team at the same time. Now, by using a rally cry, you create two things that are really powerful. First, connectedness, and second, collaboration. A great example in the last 6 months, Lego released their rally cry that goes as follows: energize everyone every day. And if you as a leader said that and lived it every day in a short window of time, and you expected and challenged your team to energize everybody every day, you might find it becomes this living, breathing driver of our mental energy. And that can make a huge difference. Now, in your resources that accompany this week's 6-minute stretch, there are some other ideas as part 2 to re-energize your team. A couple of my favorites include: 1, celebrate successes, no matter how small. Make sure that you give people a chance to realize you are noticing even the smallest margin of movement so that they understand that there is definitely something to keep us fueled for the next day. Also, I think it's important that you take larger projects and maybe you make them separated into bite-sized chunks. Instead of talking to your team about all the things we have coming up, maybe you say, let's talk about what we're doing today. Don't overwhelm them. Give them a chance to really drive their alignment in a short-term fashion, and you'll see some of that mental energy start to spur. There are other ideas inside your resources, so take a peek as you begin this week's challenge. First step, as an individual, start finding out how you can grow others to mentally bounce back. Begin by creating an environment of both compassion and containment, and then give people a chance to find their second wind and become positioned to really bounce back. And as a second step, share this video and have other people grow as a team as you challenge them to help position themselves to grow other people as well in their personal lives or inside your work environment. And with that, we give you a chance to say, it's now time to put some action to this. Definitely give it a shot. It's go time. Let's do this. Good luck, and we'll see you again in a few weeks.